Hello. In the last video, I introduced strings and I showed you some of the basics, like how to index them and some of the methods that are attached. Now, one of our most common uses of strings in engineering is we use them to report our results. And therefore, we need to include in those strings some numerical values. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. We call it formatting. And I'm going to show you the technique of fstrings for including numerical values in strings. To get us started, I'd like you to try this exercise. So construct this string using the variables below. Bach died in 1750 at the age of 65. That's the string. And the variables are a name, Johann Sebastian Bach, his birth year, 1685, and the death year, 1750. Now, I'd like you to try to do this using only the tools from the previous video. So pause the video now, try it out, and then continue once you're done. As always, there are many ways to do any particular task in coding. And so I'm going to show you what comes naturally to me. Bach. Now, Bach is the last name. It's the last word in the variable name. And so that suggests that we should split this string along a space. That will give us a list with the three words, and we want to keep the last one, Bach. So we're going to keep the last item in that list, Bach, and let's just save that as last name. Okay, so then we're going to say died in 1750, that's just the death year, at the age of 65. So that's the death year minus the birth year, 65. Okay, so we'll call that the death age. All right, now we're ready to write our string. It begins with the last name, Bach, died in, and now we have to put in the death year. However, this is an integer, so we need to cast it as a string. So Bach died in 1750. At the age of, and 65. So that is the death age. And then finally we add a period. Okay, that's very good. Now that worked well with the integers. Now let's try another example with floats. In this second example, we want to write the string that says the area of the circle is 3.17 period. And we see that the variables that they give us are the radius. So it's pretty clear what we have to do. We have to compute the area as pi times the radius squared. So that's the area. And now we can print our string. We're going to say the area of the circle is, and that now we cast the area as a string, and then we add our period. All right, well, you see the problem here. It hasn't written what we wanted it to write. It wrote the area of the circle is 32.1699, etc. And the reason this is that this happened is that the string constructor does not allow us to specify the number of decimals or anything about the formatting of the number. So we're going to have to use some formatting tools. And there are several formatting tools in Python, but the most up-to-date, the most modern one is called the fstring. So I'm going to show you how to do this formatting with an fstring. What is an fstring? So an fstring is any string that starts with an f. So this is not an fstring. This is an fstring. So it's just a regular string, but it has some added capabilities. And those capabilities are that you can insert here curly braces and then add your variable. So if I do that, and then I can put a period here, these two things are identical. If I run this, I get the same as before. The additional thing that we can do is we can specify the formatting of the number. And in this case, I would do this as colon .2f. And now we have what we wanted. So in the rest of this video, I'm going to describe what this means and the different things that you can do with fstrings. To help us understand fstrings, I have defined here a couple of variables, I and f. So I is 30,483, and f, that's an integer. F is a float with many decimals to it. So we know that we can print I using an f string. We make the f string, and within it we put curly brackets, and in there we say I or we say f. Now we're going to learn how to use formatting to get this to look the way we want it to look. So on the right, we have Python's string formatting mini language. That is this complicated piece of text here. It looks complicated, but it contains everything that you need to know about formatting with fstrings. So let's focus in on this a little bit. Okay, it has the curly brackets on the side. Those are these two. And then you specify the variable. That's f. Then everything to the right of the variable is the specification of the format. So if you want to specify the format, you have to write a colon, which is what I'll do here. And then there are basically three categories of things that you can specify. Here's one. This is the specifying of the padding. Then here in the middle, that is the specification of the grouping of the powers of 1000. And then on the right here, we have the actual formatting of the number. So I will call that number format. Okay, let's start on the right. Let's start with the number format. So let's say I want to format this number f. I can choose the type that I want to use to format, and the default for a float would be f. So if I said I want to format that as a float, that makes no difference. But I also have the option to format it with scientific notation if I put an E here. So now this becomes 8.43, etc. This symbol, E plus, means 10 to the, and then 3. So it's 8.43 times 1000. I can also now say what I want the precision to be by using a period and then some positive integer. So let's go back to float. Okay, I can say point, if I want 4 decimal places, I say 0.4. And now I get these 4 decimal places. Or if I want 2. And that also works when we're using scientific notation. I can have 2 decimal places in my scientific notation. I can have 8 decimal places in my scientific notation. Okay, that's for floats. If I use the integer here, okay, no formatting for the integer, looks like that. But I could format it as a float. And now I have 30,483.00000. I can also specify the number of decimals that I want to use. Okay. One thing that I cannot do is take a float and specify and format it as an integer. That doesn't work. If I wanted to round this to the nearest integer, I would use 0.0f. That is a float with 0 decimals to it. Another thing that I can do with integers is that I can use these other types. I can use decimal, binary, octal integer, and hexadecimal integer. So I can cast this integer into decimal format, binary format, base 8 or octal format, and hexadecimal form, base 16. Now, admittedly, we as engineers don't tend to use that particular feature that much. That's mostly computer scientists that use that. Okay, let's move on to the grouping option. As you know, the number 30,483 is often written as 30,000,483. So this is the grouping symbol for the powers of 1,000. And we can specify that. So if I have this integer, let's say it's going to be in decimal format, and I'm going to use the comma as the grouping symbol. There are only two options here. There's comma and there's underscore. Unfortunately, because many countries use the period for their grouping option, but that's not available to us because the period has already been reserved for defining the precision. Okay, since D was the default option there, I can also remove this D and it still works. So I can put a comma here and that still works. Let's move on now to the padding. That's the beginning of the format specification. Sometimes you want to, say, align your numbers to the right. Say you're making an accounting table and you want a certain padding for all of the numbers. Say you wanted 20 character padding. So in that case, I could put a width here. That's going to be the width of the string. I'm going to say 20. That now creates a string of width 20, and it is aligning the number to the right. Now I can also tell it how I want to align, whether to the left, the right, or to the center. So if I align it to the right, I put a greater than or equal sign. That's the default. If I want to align it to the left, I put a less than or equal, and if I want in the center, I put a hat symbol. Now this space that is the padding space, I can replace with some character that I want. Any character, and that's the fill value. I put it right before the align symbol. And so I can fill with, for example, a period, or I can fill with an underscore, or I can fill with a question mark, any character I want. In fact, I can use, and this is a good opportunity to introduce the use of emojis. So general Unicode characters can be printed and used in Python. So let's have a look at that. Here is a list of all of the emojis with their code on the left here. So this is from unicode.org, and so the code for this laughing emoji is 1F923. So if I wanted to achieve that emoji in Python, first I have to put \u. That is indicating that what is coming is a Unicode code, and then I can write the code. It's 1F923. However, this is going to expect 8 digits. So this plus here is just saying, well, you just have to fill in the missing zeros. So because it's going to be 8 digits, I'm missing 3 zeros here. And so that's the laughing emoji. And I can use that if I want, or any other character as my fill value. Okay, super cool. So next we're going to see a quick example of how we can use the power of fstrings to format numbers into strings. Here's the example. It says, create the following table as an f-string, and then it gives us the table. And then it says that this table is 30 characters wide, and it has 2 columns, each with 15 characters. So there is one column that's about half of the table, and the other column that's the other half. Then they give us some data. It says that we have 2 candidates, Candidate A with initials EGU obtained this many votes, and candidate B, initials NMM, obtained these many votes. By the way, in Python, you can use this underscore to mark the powers of 1,000 in an integer or in any number. So that's valid, and this is also valid. That just makes it a little bit easier to visualize. On the right-hand side here, we have our cheat sheet, which is the mini language. Okay, let's get started. We're going to make a variable called table, and that's going to be our f string. And then we're going to be printing it out. All right. The first part is going to be this title row. And this row has a string, final tally, that is centered and it's embedded in this padding that is equals signs. So let's make that. I'm going to, our var part of this f string is going to be a string that says final tally, and then the formatting, well, it's not a number, so we don't have to specify a precision or a grouping option. We just have to specify the padding, and in this case the fill character will be an equal sign, the alignment will be centered, and the width is 30, the width of the table. Okay, now one thing to notice here is that for this internal string, I have used single quotes. That's because the external string, the f string, is with double quotes. So I couldn't have used double quotes for the internal string because this quote would just close the first double quotes and that would lead to an error. So I can either use single quotes within double quotes or else double quotes within single quotes. And I'm opting to do the former. Okay, now we have to add a new line character, and then we can go to our second line. First, we have the first column, which is the name of candidate A, embedded with no fill and aligned to the left. So let's do that. So we have candidate A with no fill character aligned to the left, and the column width is 15. Okay, and then the second column will be the votes of candidate A with no fill aligned to the right. So the votes of candidate A with no fill aligned to the right with a column width of 15, and we're going to use the underscore grouping option. And then because it's an integer, we don't need to specify precision, and we're just using decimal notation. Okay, so votes A. Why did that not work? Because I copied this twice. Okay, next is candidate B. So we're going to do a return. And now this is pretty much identical to candidate A, except that their name is candidate B and they have votes B. So that's candidate B. Now I notice that this is becoming a little bit long. So I would like to split it across several lines. Now I cannot with a string, within a string, add, say, an enter like that. That's going to lead to an error. So in order to indicate this, I have to put a slash symbol, and then that works. So I can add slash symbols and enters in order to make things a little bit easier to read. Okay, so now that's still the same. If I were to try to indent this, now that's not going to work because the indentation is being added to my f string. So that's not good. Let's remove that. Now the third line. This is just 30 little dashes. So we can a new line, our slash, and then I'm going to enter here 30 times a dash symbol. 30 times a dash symbol. Okay, and new line. Finally, we want to have the totaling line. Now the totaling line has on its first column has the string total. And this is a line to the left. This is all good. And then we have the sum of the votes. So this would be votes A plus votes B. And this is formatted in the same way as the other columns. Okay, so we've done it. That is this table expressed as an f string.